This is the In the Cut podcast, where we dissect some of the best episodes of television with professional writers. On today's episode, we're taking a trip down south to talk about Atlanta.
We in the cut.
Atlanta is an Emmy-winning comedy created by and starring Donald Glover. The show is a genre-bending classic that expertly blends surrealism, humor, and drama. The pilot episode follows Ern, a broke and aimless college dropout. His baby mama tells him that rent is due, but he has no cash. He does have a rapper cousin named Al, aka Paper Boi. Ern thinks he can start making that paper, managing his cousin, but Al, not so convinced. To prove he's worthy of the job, Ern goes on a mission to get Paper Boi's single played on the radio. He succeeds, the song blows up, and Ern is hired. Things are finally looking up for Ern until he's caught up in a parking lot shootout and gets sent to jail, and he still didn't even get that rent money? Damn. And here to take us to Atlanta is Racquel. She is wonderful. She's an LA native, my favorite type of people. But she started her career as an intern for Lena Waithe, Emmy-winning writer, and through that position she was able to become a writer's assistant on Lena's shows 20s and Boomerang, wrote an episode of those shows. From there, went on to be staffed on Freeform's Good Trouble, excellent show, on Swagger from Apple Plus, and now you are a producer on The Chi. So full circle with Lena.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
But my favorite thing about Racquel, you know, she's just like an action hero. I feel like on Instagram, she always climbing mountains, running marathons, doing the most.
I can't. Oh my gosh.
So that is my favorite part of Racquel.
Oh,
thank you for being here on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. So when a few people wanted to talk about Atlanta, so you're lucky.
Oh, nice. I was wondering, I'm like, anyone else? Okay.
It's a popular show. Yeah. I think that leads to my first question. I think Atlanta, we know it. It's like a very genre bending. It's just singular. I feel like a lot of shows you can watch and be like, oh, this show is just like whatever. Your Sex and City. It's like Sopranos, whatever the comps are. But Atlanta, it really has no comparison. It just is Atlanta. I think it created trends of a bunch of people trying to make shows like it. Yeah. I don't think anyone has nailed it, to be honest. It just is Atlanta. It's a show that I think reaches so many demographics. I feel like hood people like Atlanta. Suburban people like Atlanta. Like television critics like Atlanta. Right. Why do you think this show is able to appeal to so many different types of people?
That is an amazing question. I mean, if I had to really pinpoint it, I would say the brain of Donald Glover. I think he comes from an advantage having worked on, like, I think 30 Rock and coming up really young as a staff writer and having the experience with these veteran writers, and then coming from Lithonia, Georgia, in Atlanta, and merging those two and really understanding, you know, I can really appeal to Black people or people in the hood, wherever, and then also have jokes that are so smart and nuanced and sophisticated and just all the things that make great writing to appeal to the critics and let them into a very specific experience while also not alienating anyone. I think it's just he has had all of the experiences to make a show that can tap all these different audiences.
Yeah, I think so, true. And it's, like you said, Atlanta sort of balances the elevated high concept stuff with just some hood shit. Regular type of shit. Yeah. Like even when you watch the show, part of the pilot, one of my favorite sort of visual scenes is when they're doing sort of these drone shots overlooking Atlanta, and they'll show like some dilapidated, rundown like field, and the next shot will be like the skyscrapers and business districts, and that sort of encapsulate what the show is. I think you have these really crazy moments, whether you have like in season 2, I think it was when Cat Williams was the alligator man. Like you have these crazy moments, but then you just have, just Atlanta. I don't know how to describe it. It's just Atlanta.
Yes. And I think something else that's interesting about Donald Glover is when you think of Atlanta, you may not think of him as the prototype or someone who would know it like the inside out, but he's done a masterful job at getting the intricacies and specifics down about Atlanta, like the wings, the hot wings, and it shining on their face, and strip club culture, and just the guests or the extras on this show are so specific to the area. And I love that he did it without making a mockery of it. It's very authentic.
Yes, I think that also goes with the overall tone of the show. I think it's very rare that you can make a show, like you said, that appeals to all these people. It doesn't feel like you're making fun of them. It feels like you're paying homage and elevating them. And that is only through Donald Glover's sort of very specific experiences. So, yeah. So let's get into it. I think that Atlanta, it's known for being sort of genre bending, surreal. It's funny. It's sort of scary sometimes.
Yeah, a little thriller aspect.
You get everything in Atlanta. But the pilot is pretty traditionally structured, which, I hadn't watched it in a while. Rewatching it, I'm like, oh, this pilot is like classic comedy structure. It's not doing too much craziness.
Right. Which to me spoke to, this is what he has to do to sell the show.
Yes, I was going to ask you that because there's, Donald Glover has famously said in an interview that, he basically tricked FX into letting him allow him to do the show. He was saying that basically during the pitch, he said, this is what the show is going to be like, especially coming off Community, which that was his biggest project to date. And that show is very different. He said that they thought, Atlanta was going to be like the adventures of, Paper Boi and Donald doing some type of like buddy comedy and the sticky, like funny situations they would get into.
Hilarious.
And that obviously is not what the show is at all. So I was going to ask you, do you think that sort of the traditional nature of the pilot is due to those scams that Donald had to do?
Absolutely, which I think is smart. Like, get them in there. And also what's cool about it is it's very traditional structurally, but it still felt so new and different. And even today, 7-8 years later, I don't know, when did it come out? 2016? It still feels fresh and different. And I think that's just not an easy feat to do. There's something else I was going to say about that, but
It'll come to you.
Yes.
So we have the cold open of the show, and we're really using this sort of flash forward technique. We talked about Breaking Bad on the first episode of this podcast, and I think that Breaking Bad really popularized this technique of sort of starting in the middle and then coming back around. Atlanta used a similar technique where, they're basically in a shootout.
Yes.
Donald Glover's character is trying to defuse things. Paper Boi, he trying to pop off. He's not. And then you just hear the gunshot and it goes to black.
Yes.
Which, and honestly, and also that scene is funny, which it doesn't sound funny.
I know, right?
Describing it.
Yeah.
So how do you think that this cold open effectively sets the stakes for the show?
I think it does a great job of establishing who these people are and the kind of characters they'll be for the series, because immediately you get Paper Boi, who's hot-headed, he's stubborn, he wants to do things his way. And then you get who is like trying to diffuse, trying to protect this artist from getting in his own way. And then you have Darius just randomly, he's so eccentric, talking about this is deja vu. There's a dog over there. And it's just also the setting is very like they're outside of like a liquor store. There's a old school car involved. Someone's yelling World Star. Like all of this is just a pot filled with all of the things that make Atlanta great. And it just does it so succinctly.
Man, World Star, that was the era. I know. Rewatching, I'm like, oh, I forgot. World Star, But yeah, I feel like that also perfectly encapsulates the tone of Atlanta. You're gonna have some jokes. You're gonna have somebody getting shot. You gotta know that. Like the extreme sort of human emotion swings between being funny, between being like your life is threatening. Even the dreamy sort of surrealist elements with him talking about, oh, the dog's over there. They look over and the dog's there. That pretty much is all of Atlanta just in a couple minutes. You understand what the show will be.
That's a masterclass. That's really well done. Yeah,
it is. And rewatching it, I didn't realize how much I think dreams really play as a motif in this show that I didn't really notice until I rewatched it. So we have that, and then we cut to Act 1 when Earn is waking up, and you sort of think, well, was that a dream? And he says, I just had the weirdest dream. And oh, maybe that was a dream. And even it gets to the series finale, which I don't know, spoiler alert, sorry. But the series finale, the way the show ends is sort of, it could have all been sort of in Darius's head is how it ends. You're sort of unclear if it is a dream or not. And that's really set up in the first episode, which I didn't realize. So when they wake up, Earn's in the bed, he's talking about a dream, but he's talking about like this woman's in the dream, the hands were bringing him down, and of course his seeming girlfriend is like, oh, who that bitch in the dream?
I was like, that's just so typical woman. Who was the woman?
So he's sort of trying to explain, she was very ugly. Like, don't worry about the woman. They sort of start having a argument, and that leads us to him walking to the room. We see that they have a daughter together. It seems like it's very sweet, like they're just a couple, they're kissing, it's happy. But then she's like, oh, I got a date tonight, and you're just like, what?
And I love that he tells the daughter, this is a great environment for you to sarcastically, for you to be raised in, because that dynamic is it's so gray area. And I also love that you essentially have baby mama, baby daddy, but it's not what you think of as stereotypically.
Yes, they don't fall into stereotypes, which is something I also love about Donald Glover portraying this. Like you said, it is sort of baby mama, baby daddy, very complicated. Yes. But, he went to Princeton. They're like highly educated. They don't have it together, really.
No.
But I think it was interesting to see this sort of relationship dynamic played on screen. I don't think I've ever seen that really, like a situation.
Yeah, right? And that's so great. Like they're making out, and then she's like, I'm going on a date, and then if you want to live here, cool, but you got to pay me rent. Like, it's just like, so much.
Very strange, very unique. And that's sort of, I would say the inciting incident is when she says, like, hey, you need to pay rent. And as we know, or we don't know yet, well, as we'll see, Earn is broke.
Yes. And essentially homeless.
He basically is homeless. He's broke and homeless. So, he leaves, he goes to his parents' house. This scene is also very hilarious. His parents don't even want to let him in the house.
No, they're like, absolutely not. You're expensive.
Exactly. He is a mooch. Like, that's his whole sort of personality. You see Earn, even throughout the Paper Boi situation, he's sort of just trying to attach himself to more together people and coast through life like that. That's sort of his style. And his parents are like, you're not coming in here because you probably won't leave.
Yes, exactly.
if we let you in. So we get that he is this broke, homeless.
Yeah. People see him as a mood.
Yes. Even he goes to work, and he has a very dead-end job.
Yeah. Well, I also thought that was so Atlanta, because Atlanta airport is horrific. And the TSA workers or the airport workers are just such a big part of that, and their characters in real life. So I love that he's working at the airport, and then he can't get anyone to sign up for the credit card.
But the older lady.
The older lady over to the side can, and she's kind of like teasing them about it, and it's just he is down on his luck.
Yes, he's a very, I would say, loser.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah.
And I think the pilot is so effective because you get all of this information out pretty quick.
Like 10 minutes or something.
I think, like you said, less than 10 minutes. We know who Earn is. We know his sort of status quo in life. We get his personality all very quickly. So I think Donald did an excellent job of writing this so quickly. We getting the jokes in, but also, like I said, it is sort of exposition, getting his backstory, but we do it in a fun way where it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. When he tells his coworker at the airport, like, I'm broke, I don't have anywhere to live, and Van's dating other people. Like, that is exposition, but the way he says it is, it's funny. The delivery is funny. I think he added a joke at the end, so it doesn't feel like, oh, this is bad dialogue.
Exactly. And it's funny to just see this sort of loser type of character.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. This kind of loser.
Yes,
right?
I feel like, so I love to research when I'm preparing for the podcast, read articles, stuff. And I had seen Donald Glover say in an interview that, Atlanta is basically like Seinfeld, except the loser character, which would be George, is the main character. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. Like, usually on a show, the loser is not the main character. He's the sidekick. So to see this sort of lame person
it's great.
be the main character, it is an interesting spin on things. And I think that also allows for the most growth when you have this sort of lame person. Yeah. And I think the show is really about taking this lame person and elevating them. Because by the end of the show, he has become a whole different, successful. Yeah. He's not the person that he was.
Absolutely. That's I would have never thought of it, George.
He is basically
Yeah.
So in that scene at work, we also set his goal for the episode. His coworkers looking at videos like, oh, you heard this new Paper Boi?
Right.
And he's looking at the phone like, oh, that's my cousin.
Yes, which is just, that's so, I think it's a Black experience thing. Like, everybody always has some random cousin. So you're watching, what are the odds? A viral rapper is your cousin?
And then you have good jokes in that scene. He's like, oh, your cousin, the thick one?
Yes. He thinks he's talking about the video girl, but it's like, no, Paper Boi
is his cousin. And I forgot, like, that song really popped off when the show came out.
It was like a whole moment.
Yeah, Paper Boi.
Paper Boi.
It was good. It was a moment. And Donald is actually rapping.
Okay, that was like, is that him?
It is.
Okay, yes.
Because we know Donald, he's a Renaissance man. He rapping, he dancing.
I know,
singing,
can't forget about the
writing,
dancing.
acting.
Right.
My favorite Donald Glover moment, I feel like this is very underrated, was last year at the Usher tribute at the BET Awards.
And everyone was a lot of people were pissed that he was a part of it.
No, he was
good.
Are you joking me?
He was great.
I didn't know Donald Glover could sing like that. I mean, we know he could sing, but he was really for real. I was like, I want him to make a whole album
R&B,
of covers of like in the Donald Glover style of like R&B covers.
Have you seen his Tamia?
No.
I'm so into you.
No.
It's I think it went viral.
Okay, I need to see it. I need more of this. I need that last album,
I didn't listen
to it. It wasn't for me. Okay. No offense, Donald, if you watching this.
Yeah, he can be an acquired taste.
The thing is I love him. I love Childish Gambino. I love Because the Internet. I love all the mixtapes. This last one, it was a bit too emo for me.
Okay.
I'm not. That's not my taste. You know. I mean, sometimes I like a little Paramore.
Yeah, Haley. Yes,
but not all the time.
Right,
so
right.
I feel like Donald, go back to the classic.
The covers.
The Stay Woke.
Yeah. Oh man, well that was a time.
Yeah, see, Donald, we need more of that.
Yeah.
But that was a big digression.
I love it.
So anyway, back to the show. Donald sees that Paper Boi is rapping, and he, it was like in the cartoons where the little cat signs come
the light bulb, the dollar signs.
Yeah, he's like, well, I can attach myself to someone, get some money. His coworker is like, oh yeah, Paper Boi, he about to get $2 million or whatever.
Like, how do you know this
Just
information?
making this up. But, Ern's like, hey, well, I can get me a piece of that. I'm broke. I'm homeless.
Yeah.
Let me hit up my cousins about to be rich. So that's the goal. He goes over to the house. And I think this is sort of a great character intro for Paper Boi, knocking on the door. Boom, gun at the door.
Exactly. You're getting the kind of person he is, the paranoia, the kind of angst that he has. And it's also a great character intro for Darius. He's in an apron. He has a knife. He's down to protect too. But then he's like, I made these cookies.
Yes.
Do you want one? He is not in any box.
Yes.
He is such a unique, one-of-a-kind character.
Very interesting character. And I feel like that, I feel like in the hood, you have some characters.
Yes, you do.
And I feel like a lot of times, I love sort of the dichotomy between Paper Boi and Darius, because I feel like that is a perfect summation of what goes on in these neighborhoods. You might have the scary Debo type of person, but then you have the funny Chris Tucker type person. And they all coexist together, and that's basically what the show is. Yeah. So this scene, I actually realized, is the longest scene in the show.
Oh, really?
The Paper Boi, the longest scene in the pilot,
in the episode,
is Paper Boi, Darius, and Ern together. But I think it needs to be the longest scene because basically they are the driving force of the show. Those are the three main characters. These are who we're going to be following. Yeah. So how do you think this scene really sets the tone for the rest of the show?
Yeah, I think that was a great point, that it gets into all their inner character dynamics and you get a feel for it and you want to take the ride with them. And also, it's the debate. It's where Ern is trying to convince Paper Boi, let me be your manager. And then you get some reasons of why Ern is like, or Alfred, Paper Boi, is like, no. You get the conflict there. And then you also get Darius chiming in with comedic. Yeah. And so it's just, again, similar to the opening. It does a good job of, this is what the show is about. This is what you're going to get every episode. And then also even the lines about manage.
Yes, when he said, you know what manage is? You know what that means? Yeah. And then Ern's like, well, actually, it's Latin for menace.
Yeah, you're right.
I do know what it means,
right? And then here comes Paper Boi, like, no, man, and you're not a man. And it's just such a dichotomy, but so rich in character context.
And I think Paper Boi reads Ern pretty accurately. You're not a man. What is a man? Yeah. We would say a man takes care of his family. His family taking care of him. We get also through previous context that his daughter, his parents are watching his daughter a large amount of time. He's not paying rent. Yeah. He's not doing these things. So you could argue that he's right. You're not really a man. Right. If you can't even take care of yourself, you can't even manage yourself. How are you going to manage someone else? And so his arguments, while harsh, is pretty accurate. And so Earn is sort of rejected in his goal to become the manager, thereby get some money.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. He goes off. And
Yes.
But he has a trick up his sleeve.
Yeah, which is nice. And I think that's what strong character work does, right? Like you see this person, their heels are dug in, they are who they are, or so you think. You think he's like a moocher, he's trying to attach himself to other people. But something turns here where he's like, you know what, no, I'm going to try to be innovative and figure this out, even if you don't believe me or trust me or think I can do it. And then now you're rooting for that guy to like, okay, are you going to make it?
Yeah, and I think once we learn, like, he went to Princeton.
Yeah.
You see, so this guy's clearly intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this guy who went to Princeton, why is he broke? Why does he have this dead-end job? And it's sort of unclear. He dropped out, and they don't really say why, so you're also intrigued as to, let me keep watching and understand how did this type of character end up in this situation. But also in that scene with Darius and Paper Boi, I love it when Paper Boi's basically like, you need to be a dog, basically.
Yeah.
But Earn's like, no, like you are like that.
Yes.
You need someone who knows this sort of more business side, who can finesse people. And I think that is basically going to play out later in the shootout scene, as we can see. But it also plays out in sort of how Earn gets his goal accomplished of helping Paper Boi. So he wants to get the song played on the radio to prove, I'm going to do this anyway. You didn't hire me as your manager, but I'm going to take it upon myself to prove that I'm worthy of this job. So he goes to see the white dude.
Oh, God. This white dude. I always forget this is a part of the pilot.
Yes, the scene with the white dude.
Yeah. He works at the radio station. I think his boss is the person that actually is in charge. Getting
but
songs.
Earn is like, I know this white dude. Perhaps he can get my song played on the radio.
Yeah.
And the white dude is, not only is he being like a gatekeeper and is like, nah, you can't do that unless you give me $500. But he also, he dropped the N-word on Earn.
Multiple
twice.
Yeah.
Why do you think they did it twice? Because I think that is really important.
I think it's a few reasons. One, I think they're exemplifying like these culture vultures, people that feel so entitled to Black culture that they can just freely say it. But then also it shines a light on the kind of character that Earn is. Like this guy feels comfortable saying it to you so freely, and they do a great job multiple times showing how he
won't
does not
say it to other people.
Like, this is great. It's really shining a light on Earn.
Yes, I think perfect. Like when we're writing a script, how your characters react to situations reveals their character. So we really get a show, not tell moment.
Yes.
Like you don't have to tell us Earn is, maybe he's a bit passive.
Yes.
Maybe he is seen as like the safe Black
yes,
person.
at 1,000%. That is what that established.
Yes, like he's that person. Right after the scene, the janitor comes out and he's like, oh, does he ever say that to you? And the janitor's like, I whooped that ass or whatever. So he won't even disrespect the janitor, but he'll disrespect Earn.
Yes.
And that was very telling.
Yeah. It's also funny, though, because you said he's the cool Black guy or the one that they feel comfortable around. And honestly, in that industry, you kind of need that characteristic to ascend.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. Like, I was just describing incidents earlier today.
Yeah.
Like, you have a meeting with all these white people who may not be familiar with your culture, but they still want to profit off of it. And it can feel very weird at times. Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah. But again, in 2 minutes, they showed that so succinctly and well done. It's just
perfect.
Great. Yeah.
So Earn, he talks to the janitor and basically doesn't do what this white man is trying to strong arm him into giving him the money. He goes through the janitor, and the janitor lets him in the building. And so he goes, and the white dude's like, "Oh, hey, how'd you get in here?" And he's like, "Hey," and slides it under the guy. So he cuts out the white man, the middleman, and just goes directly to the source. And I thought that was also very smart, because in the moment we think Earn just got punked by the white man. But he shows that you can still get what you want, and you don't have to always use this sort of strong arm tactic. That you can finesse, and that you can just let things go and ultimately come up on top.
Which is someone that Paper Boi would need, because he's the one that would have beat that guy up if he was.
Paper Boi probably would have pulled his gun out.
Yeah, exactly. Hot-headed,
Like he's prone to do, but Earn was, and not accomplish the goal. But Earn was able to stay calm, even though he was not happy. He held it in and still won.
Exactly.
Life lesson.
Okay. Pick your battles.
Exactly. So that moves us into Act 3, the resolution, the song. Oh, actually, I skipped over one of my favorite scenes, when he's in the bus.
Oh, yes. The dream, again, the surrealism.
I didn't realize, when I first watched that show, I always thought that moment really happened. But then I'm rewatching it, I'm like, I think he fell asleep on the bus, and that was a dream. I didn't realize that.
I watched it twice before our talk, and the second time I watched it, the positioning of his daughter.
And the cut,
let me know. I was like, oh, this was
there's like a clear cut. And when I first watched it, I was like, oh, that cut's really jarring. Why did they do that? And then I watched it again, I'm like, I get it.
They're trying to communicate visually.
That, basically Earn says it, like, I'm a loser. He's like, do you ever feel like some people are just there to make the winners look good? He feels very downtrodden after, interacting with this annoying white dude. Life is lifing. And
what is this, like the all is lost moment? Right?
And the guy says, he says some deep sort of Buddhist
I watched it multiple times, and I was like, what is he actually saying?
I think he's basically saying that, like, just because things look bleak right now, that doesn't, that is not the whole picture. You have to step out and look at the grand scheme of things, and not just be focused on this. But Earn's not trying to hear that. He's like, oh, whatever. You feel weird. And he's like, eat this sandwich.
The Nutella sandwich is so random. This is like, again, Donald Glover's signature. This is all him. Like, this guy looks kind of like a Nation of Islam. With this Nutella, and he disappears to the woods with his dog.
With the dog from the beginning. So it's the same dog, the deja vu dog. So you're like, oh, is this real? Is it deja vu? Because that dog appears before we see the dog later. And that's like very dreamy.
So dreamy.
Very, I didn't realize that until watching it again multiple times.
Same.
So, very interesting.
On the first watch, I was like, okay, this show is so unlike anything I've ever seen before, because what is this? But I was still hooked. I was in it.
And I love that character, because in my favorite episode of Atlanta ever is the BAN.
Oh, I love that.
That's my favorite. And then when they have the fake commercial. And that guy has his commercial.
It's so good. Oh, gosh.
No, I feel like Atlanta is like created its own multiverse. It's like the Marvel has their world. Atlanta.
Right. Man, watching this just gave me so much nostalgia, because this was around the time I first entered the industry. And I was so inspired, and it was just so good. I hadn't seen anything like it, and I just missed that feeling of, like, creative inspiration.
I think Atlanta definitely inspired all creatives around our age, to be honest, because I feel like it showed me that you could just have random moments. I feel like I'm a very random person.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'd have to write things very in a way that made sense. And I'm like, no, I could just have random cutaways or just random jokes that 10 people might understand.
Yes, I know. It gives you freedom. It inspires you to be free.
Yeah. So I really love when you see, like you said, when you see other people being free, it gives you permission to do the same as well.
Yeah.
So resolution back on track.
Yeah.
Act 3. You know, Paper Boi's in the car. He hears his song on the radio.
Big moment.
He's freaking out, and Earn reveals, hey, you know, that was me.
Me, yeah. I did that.
And for the first time, he gets some respect.
Yes. And the trust is there, you know, and it's like, okay, now we're off to see how this relationship is going to work for the rest of the series. But then
things go sideways. So they're celebrating. You know, a girl walks by. He's like, "Oh, this is my song on the radio." She's like, "I don't give a fuck."
Right. Again, it's those little moments that are so good.
Very accurate.
Yeah,
also.
so accurate.
I literally saw a moment like this around the corner.
Oh my God.
I was in the car and this girl was walking by and the guy was like, "Oh, you look good today." Yeah. And she just rolled her eyes and the guy was like, "Well, fuck you."
Right. As soon as you reject them,
they get real mad.
So crazy.
They want to be cussing you out.
Oh my God.
Man, why do you do this? Why you cuss us out?
Why? Questions that need answers. This is ridiculous.
So, true to life.
Yes.
Is exactly what happened on Atlanta. She's not interested. He's like, fuck you.
Yeah. Ridiculous, dude.
But little does he know, she got a man. So she goes over to her man, presumably tells him. So he comes and it smacks the
side view,
the mirror off his car. So Paper Boi, he's not having that.
No.
Pops out the car.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, you gonna have to, you know, repair this. Give me some money." And the dude's like, "Oh, aren't you Paper Boi?
Yeah,
we
right.
think it's gonna be a good
fan,
yeah." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, yeah, mixtape was trash."
Yeah. Your song suck. It's funny because one of the songs he talks to Earn about.
The mucking.
Yeah. The guy is like, "That's trash too. What do you think that is?" It's just all comes back around full circle.
And we get to that moment, the climax of the episode that we had seen in the cold open. Now we have context. Now it's making sense.
Yes.
They're fighting. Guns drawn. We see Earn in that moment. Basically the difference between Earn and Paper Boi.
Yeah.
How does how they react to that same situation show their character?
Yeah, I think it's really setting up what Earn's journey is going to be like dealing with Paper Boi. Because if he's going to have to save him and try to stop him from messing up the money all the time, that's going to be constant conflict. And I think Paper Boi is very much, he comes from a certain space and he's like, this is how I move through the world. You don't agree with it? I don't care. I'm going to do what I do. Like him actually shooting the gun is crazy. Like, oh, you did that. And it just also goes to show, I think a lot of times rappers, athletes, whoever, you come from where you come from and it's hard to shake that even as you ascend. And it's such a real commentary on that, coming from the hood and trying to get out, and how sometimes you just let that still move you and dictate how you respond to things. But it's a good dynamic because you have Earn trying to constantly talk him off the ledge while he's like, I'm going to do what I want to do. It's just the perfect kind of synergy that explains what we'll be getting for the rest of the show.
Yeah, and I just realized in this moment, I think Earn's sort of character arc in the show is becoming more of a man, standing up for himself. And I think Paper Boi is sort of like calming down. By the end, he's in Europe. He's living it up. Right. And I think he's changed from being that quick to pop off character to someone that's a bit more level-headed.
Absolutely.
And Earn has changed from being someone who's passive to someone who will get things done. And So they kind of like mirroring.
Yeah, which is, again, it's perfect.
It's a good show.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say, too. In the beginning, you were asking, why do you think he made the pilot so traditional? And I think even if it's like, oh, structure, you know, we hate that. But it does appeal to universal audiences. Like, it's beginning, middle, end, very clear. You got your goals, the conflict, the obstacles, the resolution. It's very tight. There's nothing wasted here.
No, I agree. And I'm very pro-structure. I think that a lot of times, because we have cable, we have streamers that don't have commercials, so people think, oh, I don't need structure, I'll just do things. You watch something and it doesn't feel memorable. You're just like, oh, what was the point of that? They were just doing a bunch of stuff.
Right.
I'm not really sure what this show is about. And even though it is traditional and structured, there's still crazy moments like, with the Nation of Islam guy. Like, you can still have fun and creativity in a pilot that follows a traditional, cold open, 3 acts and a tag. Like, that is just, to me, there's more creativity in the boundaries than when you just have no boundaries. It's sort of a free for all and nothing
like,
is
what
happening.
Is it? Exactly.
So I think that the pilot's excellent. And then sort of the tag is Van coming home. She's tired. Then she's watching TV, and her man or her whatever they are,
right.
is on TV, and the pictures
so funny. I literally laugh out loud. It's like Donald Glover's probably his real year.
His like high school photo, and then Paper Boi looking like a menace, and then Donald Glover is looking like a nerd.
Again, they're paying off the dichotomy between them so well.
And she's just like, she doesn't even look surprised. She's like, idiot.
Yes, this idiot.
Yeah. And it also makes you want to watch the next episode because you want to see what happened. You understand now from the shot, they didn't get shot.
No,
that they were the shooters.
And it's on the news. Like, that's high stakes. Like, how are they going to get out of this? This is crazy.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much Atlanta is a comedy. I will say, sometimes it's funnier than others.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But I think it's mostly, especially season 1, I would say is a comedy.
Absolutely.
Even season 2. We know season 3, that's
most
controversial.
Yes.
How do you feel about season 3 of Atlanta?
Season 3 and 4, I was just like,
oh really? I thought 4 brought it back. I was happy with 4.
I like the high school episode of 4. But to me, it was like, this is cool, Donald. You get to really play and do whatever you want. But it lost. Like, season 1 as a whole was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. And then it just kept getting like, oh, well, this kind of... It didn't feel like it was laddering up to the goal of the show and the characters. It was kind of like, I'm going to just do what I want. I'm like, that's cool. I love that you get to do that. But I tuned in because of season 1. And I was expecting that,
I think season 3 was not bad. I feel like a lot of people say it's bad. I quote season 3 a lot.
Really?
The episode with Chet Hanks.
Oh my God!
Trinity Tootie Bone.
My God.
The thing is, I liked season 3. It just was not Atlanta. I wish that Donald Glover, I feel like he watched Get Out and was I'm trying to do this.
Yes, absolutely.
Which a lot of people did. And I feel like I enjoy his version of Get Out more than all the others. I wish that he had just taken that and made a separate show. If it was just like a limited series, anthology series with that, I think that show would have been amazing. But it just was not Atlanta. Like, the show's called Atlanta. I don't even think they were in Atlanta.
I know, right. That's what everyone I remember saying, like, huh?
I just don't, like, to me, it was great. It just was not Atlanta. And I think during that time, I read that there was a lot of scheduling conflicts.
Oh, funny.
That was when Zazie Beetz was in Deadpool, I believe. you also forget that this show made everyone famous.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like I forget, like LaKeith got famous, Brian Tyree Henry, Zazie. They all became super famous off this show. So Donald Glover is giving people careers.
Right.
But I think that was also part of the reason, like, they just literally did not have the whole cast. So
it felt very like, okay, we'll have these people.
Season 4, I enjoyed it. Like that Goofy movie documentary.
Oh, okay. But again, it wasn't. It's funny. I enjoyed that, but it had really nothing to do with the cast.
But it was wonderful.
That was amazing. Oh my God.
I thought that was real.
I watched it multiple times.
Like, I was like, is this real?
I know. It was so good.
It was so well done.
It was so good. Oh my God.
See, yes.
Yeah, I know.
It's good.
Those one-offs, man, they're just,
I think he's the king of just random. I want him to do an anthology series. I feel like
he would kill it.
Yeah, like the Teddy Perkins
episode. Oh my God, that was so... Honestly, I can't even really rewatch that. Something about it just makes me very uncomfortable. It's the face, I think.
Oh, it is very uncomfortable. It is.
Like,
But
what?
Donald Glover, I think he needs to make like an anthology show, like Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Donald Glover Twilight Zone.
That's what I want to see. Sorry, Jordan Peele. I want to see Donald Glover's Twilight Zone.
I do.
Yeah.
Well, I felt like season 3, that's basically what it was. I feel like if he devotes his full resources to that, it would be like really good. Yeah. And he would have some social commentary.
Absolutely.
It would be good.
Yeah.
So. And it's my idea. Staff me on your show.
EP. Okay. EP.
I'm aiming too low.
Okay.
I just need a job, Donald. I don't need all that. I'll give it to you.
Okay. Yeah.
But thank you so much for taking that trip to the ATL. Nostalgia vibes.
Yes. Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Of course. Now that we've answered all the Atlanta questions, would you stick around for a couple questions about writing and your career?
Of course.
Stand by.
I wanted to ask you some questions. A lot of our viewers are writers. What do you think is the best writing advice someone has ever given you that you'd like to pass on to others?
Ooh. Okay. I think it's to never stop learning, never stop getting better at your crafts, because we all may have a talent of writing and got it, you know how to write. But if you just never absorb new material, never try to, experiment or just soak up new information, you can stay stagnant, and that's just no way to grow career-wise or as an individual. So I think always read new stuff, watch new stuff. Books are really helpful. You can think, I know screenwriting, I know structure, but I think read new books on structure, read new books on characters.
Any books you recommend?
Yeah, Inside Story by Dara Marks.
Okay.
Creating Character Arcs, I think it's K.M. Weiland. The Pixar storytelling book is amazing. And there's another one oh my gosh. Oh, there's a lot of YouTube resources.
Yes.
They actually break down the Breaking Bad pilot, which is another perfect pilot.
I agree.
I think it's called Inside the Screenplay. Oh my God, what's the name of this YouTube channel? I think that's what it is. And they break it down perfectly. There's also one by the writer of Little Miss Sunshine, and he wrote Toy Story 3, Michael Arndt.
Oh, okay.
It's cut up into different segments, but there's one on beginnings, on how to start a feature, and it's incredible. Yeah, I think
those are all. I'm gonna read those.
Yeah.
Check those out. We'll put links to all of those in the show description as well. This is a question people ask me, so I figured I'd ask you. How do you balance being a new parent with working? Racquel is a very cute baby. Baby.
Oh my gosh, so's your baby.
Yeah, we do have cute babies. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes. Oh man, how do I balance? Yeah. Well, Having help is everything. You have to, I think when you are a new parent, especially a new mom, all your attention, your brain power is focused on that kid. I don't care if they're off being independent, you're still just thinking about bottles and cleaning up and all that. So I think having help can really allow you to detach temporarily and go in, because you have to use that same amount of brain power for writing and creating. And I just could not do that without someone fully being hands-on while I can go to my own space and figure it out. And I remember being like so sleep deprived in the beginning, and nights, no, I'm sleeping. I need all my sleep. But now that she's a little older and I'm on a pumping schedule, I like stay up until 11 and she goes to sleep at 7. So those hours I'm using to, work on my stuff. You have to find the time eventually, which is so hard, easier said than done. But I'm also motivated by like wanting to get another job and wanting to get my shows made. So I have to, what else are you going to do? You
gotta make it work somehow.
Yeah.
100% agree. Get help. A lot of times people don't want to accept help. Like you think you have to do it all the time yourself. Like I was a part of this mothers group, and I remember one of the women was like complaining, because not even complaining, she was saying like her husband would offer to watch the daughter, but she didn't want the husband to watch the daughter, and she was like freaking out, and she would have anxiety, and he'd watch her for like 5 minutes and she'd come back, and I'm like,
oh, no.
Ain't me.
We're bad parents.
No, I feel like you need to have a break.
Yes, absolutely. In order to come back and be full on with them, you have to pour into your own cup too,
Yeah, it's good for, like you said, when you are rested, you can be a better mother to your baby.
Absolutely.
I don't want to teach my baby to just be like stressed out all the time.
Because the energy feeds off,
I'm going to teach my baby, go to the spa.
Yes. Okay.
That's what I'm teaching.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Of course, anytime. Thanks again to our guest, Racquel Callahan. Of course, to the GOAT, Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, for making the cultural phenomenon that was Atlanta. And of course, to the audience for tuning in. This is our last episode of season 1. I can't believe we made it. And I'm just so proud of all the work we've done. Thanks again to every guest who's been on this season, to the producer of the show, Joseph Fuentes, to the composer, Michael Shan, aka Mad One, for composing original music. It's just been a wonderful time. Every episode, I learned a lot, whether it was shows that I've already watched a billion times, or whether it was a new show that I discovered because of this podcast. Through each conversation, I really gained a new understanding of structure, of character, of just how to tell an excellent story, and I hope that you did as well. Now, even though this is the last episode of our season, we're coming back for season 2. Bigger and better than ever before. But to do that, we need your help. So if you enjoyed this show, go back, rewatch it, share it with a friend. I'm going to ask you to share it with 3 people that you think would enjoy this podcast. It'll really help us in making season 2 even bigger, more episodes, better things, better budget than we had this season. So we'd love if you can do that. Now, In the Cut is not just a podcast. I am a TV writer, but I also own a company called In the Cut, where I provide education and resources for people of color that are looking to become writers. We have events throughout the year, both live and virtual, both free and paid. So if you love this podcast, if you learned anything, you might like some events that In the Cut provides. To stay up to date with what we're doing, follow @InTheCutLA on Instagram, or visit our website, inthecutla.org for more resources and to check in with what we're doing. Again, thanks for making it with us, for staying this long. Appreciate you and can't wait to see you next season. Until next season, stay in the cut.